At JBNN, we keep you informed. I'm Michelle Jones, and in the news, RATTY gun down in Greater Portmore. A lone gunman shot and killed a man sitting under a mango tree in Greater Portmore, St. Catherine on Labor Day. The deceased has been identified as 30-year-old Kevin Burke, otherwise called RATTY. Police reports are that sometime before 4 p.m. on Tuesday, Burke was sitting under a mango tree when he was approached by a man armed with a handgun who shot him. The police were called, and Burke was seen lying face down in a pool of blood. 3 cartridge casings and a blood sample were recovered by forensic investigators who processed the scene. The Greater Portmore police are investigating. Fatal crash in Rose Hall, St. James. A man was killed and several others injured in a crash in Rose Hall, St. James early this morning. The deceased is yet to be identified. The collision occurred shortly after 2 a.m. in the vicinity of the Half Moon Hotel and the Sugar Mill Road. 3 vehicles, a Toyota Noah, in which the deceased was traveling, a Subaru Impreza, and a Toyota Mark X were involved in the early morning pileup. According to eyewitness accounts, the 3 vehicles were traveling in the direction of Montego Bay when the Toyota Noah hit a curb wall, spun out of control, and overturned. The passenger was allegedly thrown from the vehicle during the impact. The Subaru Impreza, which had been traveling behind the Noah, managed to decelerate, but the oncoming Mark X clipped the Subaru and then collided with a utility pole. The police are investigating. Charges pending against dancehall veteran following gun seizure. The police say charges are pending against the veteran female dancehall entertainer in relation to the seizure of a gun at her home in Portmore, St. Catherine. The artist has been in custody since the recovery on Sunday, May 21. The police report that cops attached to the St. Catherine South Division were on an operation in Greater Portmore, during which a premises was searched. According to the police, a handgun was discovered hidden among items of clothing. The female occupant was subsequently taken into custody on suspicion of breaches of the Firearms Act. The police investigations are ongoing. Gun seized during vehicle spot checks in St. Elizabeth and St. Andrew. A gun and several rounds of ammunition were seized during a vehicle checkpoint operation on Oxford Main Road in St. Elizabeth on Tuesday. Reports from the Black River Police are that about 1 p.m., lawmen were conducting a spot check in the area when a grey Toyota Corolla was stopped and searched. A 9mm pistol with a magazine containing 8 9mm rounds of ammunition was removed from the vehicle and the driver taken into custody. A pistol and several rounds of ammunition were also seized in Manor Park, St. Andrew. Reports are that about 5 p.m., lawmen acting on information stopped a grey Toyota Axie motor car and conducted a search. A 9mm Browning pistol fitted with a magazine containing 12 9mm rounds of ammunition was found in a bag inside the vehicle. The 2 occupants of the vehicle were taken into custody pending further investigations. Former Prime Ministers to miss out on big pension increases. While the decision by Prime Minister Andrew Holness to forego his FT salary increase will have no impact on the current members of the political directorate, former Prime Ministers will not be so lucky. Minister of Finance Dr. Nigel Clark on Wednesday told a post-cabinet media briefing that the decision by Holness means the salary for the holder of the office of the Prime Minister will not move from its roughly $9 million at present to almost $29 million by April 2024. What the Prime Minister asked is that the scale for a Prime Minister remains as it is, Clark told journalists, in response to questions about the impact of the decision by Holness. This would mean that former Prime Ministers P.J. Patterson and Portia Simpson-Miller, whose pensions are indexed to the full salary of the sitting head of government, will not see their pensions moved. The same would apply to Carla Siaga, the widow of former Prime Minister Edward Siaga, and former Prime Minister Bruce Golding, who opted to not index his pension to the full salary of the current Prime Minister, but instead to accept 2/3 of that amount. During a media briefing on Monday, Holness announced that he would not accept the salary increase granted to him under the Public Sector Compensation Review, stating that, as leader of the country, he has a duty to show solidarity with Jamaicans who are experiencing economic hardships.
It is important that the country is assured that its leader symbolically and truthfully understands their concerns. As your leader, I do. Therefore, I have directed the Transformation Implementation Unit to remove the Prime Minister's compensation from the new salary scale. The Prime Minister's compensation will therefore remain at its previous levels. To be clear, no retroactive payments will apply to the Prime Minister's pay. I firmly believe that when this new compensation scheme is completed and all anomalies are resolved, coupled with the new performance management and accountability system, which will be implemented, we will see an increase in the motivation and productivity of the public sector, including that of ministers, councillors and MPs.
PM Andrew Holness speaking on Monday. Vaz condemns double murder. Member of Parliament for Portland Eastern, the Jamaica Labour Party's Amory Vaz has condemned the double murder in her constituency on Tuesday. 28-year-old Shade Pink of Campbell Avenue, Port Antonio, and the 23-year-old Keno James of Johntown Road were fatally shot about 1 p.m. on Campbell Avenue in the parish capital. Pink was reportedly pregnant. Preliminary reports from the police are that the double murder stemmed from a domestic dispute. Vaz, in expressing condolences to the family members and friends of her two young constituents, said she was disturbed by the killings, which came as a shock to residents of Port Antonio who were not accustomed to the display of brutality which resulted in the loss of life. There was a time in Jamaica that hoodlums would not contemplate attacking a woman, much as fatally wounding a woman who was from all reports expecting to give birth in the coming weeks, said Vaz. I'm particularly disturbed at the callous attack at this time, when we as a society take stock and do all we can to assist law enforcement to bring to justice people who are minded to perpetrate these heartless crimes, added Vaz. The Portland Eastern MP is urging residents to tell the police what they know, as she called for a quick resolution to the case. Accountant accused of robbing man of motorcycle. An accountant has been charged with robbery with aggravation after allegedly robbing a man of a motorcycle on May 6. Charged is 30-year-old Kevon Reed of New Gardens District, St. Andrew. Reports from the Halfway Tree Police are that about 5 a.m., Reed was driving a motorcycle with a pillion who was armed with a gun. They reportedly approached the man and robbed him of his motorcycle. Investigations led to the recovery of the man's motorcycle and Reed's arrest on Tuesday, May 23. St. James man charged after being found with gun magazines. A man was charged with possession of components of a prohibited weapon following an incident in his community of Albion, St. James on May 20. Charged is 45-year-old Richard McIntosh, otherwise called Richie and Ginger, of 2nd Street, Albion in the parish. Reports from the Montego Bay Police are that about 9:45 a.m., lawmen carried out an operation in the area when McIntosh was accosted and searched. 2 9mm magazines were taken from him. He was subsequently arrested and later charged. Man convicted for killing his father. A man who stabbed his father to death during a dispute over empty bottles has been convicted of manslaughter. Dennis Brown Jr. was found guilty in a unanimous verdict handed down by a jury in the Home Circuit Court on Wednesday. He is scheduled to be sentenced on July 7. Dennis Brown Sr. died at hospital in April 2020 after he was stabbed at his home on Oddman Lane in St. Andrew by his son, who he had accused of stealing empty bottles he was saving. Residents say Brown Sr. was a tailor, was saving the bottles for the anticipated slowdown in work due to the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. Because of COVID, people not alone about them house right now, so must save them for sell at a later date. But him son come and take out a portion of them, so that's where everything stem from, one resident said at the time. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.